everybody, and welcome back to Orange Pill Studios. This is Said Manning, and today we're going to be designing a bicycle web kind of promotion website UI. So I have my canvas and I have an image of a bike. It's a transparent PNG which you can find on many websites. I'm going to draw a square box that fits the whole canvas, a rectangle. Take off that grey default border that Adobe XD puts, and I'm going to turn it into a dark grey color. I'm going to change this dark grey color to a gradient, and you can just follow along the steps to see how I do the gradient. I'm not going to put the linear gradient. I'm not going to put the linear gradient from top to bottom. Just see how it looks if you put some color into it. We'll just keep it on a grey scale. Just experimenting with the colors. And I say this in nearly every video. Design is mainly always about experimenting. We're always experimenting different colors and different styles. I'm going to type a name. I'm just going to use K Bikes. You can use anything you want. And in actual fact, if you were designing for a real client, you'd have to use their name and or their logo if they had a logo. But for now, I'm just going to use K Bikes because this is the name of a tutorial I did before, which is also about bikes. I'm going to use the pen tool to draw two lines. Well, I'm going to draw one line and duplicate it to be used as the burger menu or the drop-down navigation. Now, sometimes you see websites with drop-down navigation and then and static normal navigation. That's because in the drop-down navigation, there's usually other stuff. Like, let's say if they didn't want to have a profile or a cart or all these kind of icons just there with the static navigation, then they would use this. They would use a drop-down menu and put those links in it, or they would use those as the static navigation and use the static navigation in the drop-down menu. It sounds a little bit confusing, but you'll understand. I'm going to draw out, type out a navigation, sorry. To duplicate items in nearly any Adobe package, just Alt and drag. And we're going to name these navigation items separately. Take the size down. One thing about designing is the little details sometimes that count the most, like the size of the text. The size of the text, when you have text that is too big, sometimes it just looks clumsy and messy. So there we have our 6 pieces of navigation, and we're going to align them so they have the equal amount of spacing throughout. And that's by clicking the equal space tool up in the alignment section. And we'll align it by the logo. And we're going to align it. We're going to give it equal spacing between the drop-down menu, between the navigation and the drop-down menu, that the drop-down menu has at the end of the page. I'm going to change the color red of the home tab because that's the tab that we're on at the moment. I'm going to use this line to as another indicator, even though the home page, the home nav item is red, is enough as of an indicator, but I'm just going to use this to also be acting as an indicator and give it the same hex code as the red text, so it has the same color. Never mind that. I'll just use a color picker tool. I'm going to drag a ruler, a guideline from outside of the side of the canvas. If you need one from the top, then you can just drag it from the top of the canvas. You can't grab it from the bottom, and you can't grab it from the right. You can only grab it from the top and the left. I'm going to type in a name. You can use any name. Obviously, I'm using the K-Bike Dust Eater. I suggest that you use your own names and your own name, your own brands, and maybe your own images. If you're more professional, then you can change the way that the design is laid out. Because when you put up on Dribble, or if you put up on Dribble or Behance or any of these websites, then you don't have this design that's on every other website. Like for other people, no, it's on the same website, but on other accounts for other people who've also done this tutorial. So just kind of personalize it with a different name and maybe a different image, maybe a different color. But it's also okay, and it's totally fine to do it exactly like this. Now, I actually intended to just turn the K red, but having the whole logo red looks nice. So I'm just going to leave it like that. And like I say, in most of my videos, design is always changing. It's always about experimenting. You're always changing what you're doing. You might have a vision, and then you're always changing that vision as the design process goes on. So we're taking off that default border, and we're going to give it that same red color. And we're gonna give it rounded. We're gonna turn it into like a long rectangle with oval circle edges. Alt and drag from one of the navigation tabs. We're just gonna write get a quote. Type get a quote. Sorry. And we're gonna type read more outside just in case to act as if someone wants more information. Now, usually you shouldn't put two call to action buttons in the same sector, but at this point it doesn't matter because if the user clicks get a quote, then he's going to get a quote, and if he clicks read more and he still likes it, then he's going to get a quote off the read more page. So in this instance, it doesn't really matter. It's coming together slowly, but it's coming together. We're just going to give it all equal spacing. And if you wonder why sometimes I don't use the equal spacing tool when I'm dealing with fonts, it's because fonts, they have, the only way I can call it is they have default padding on them sometimes, like default spacing that so it doesn't give, or it doesn't, or never really gives it, as you can see, and spacing at the bottom, so it doesn't really give the intended view. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put 3 pointers down here, or three um, reasons why you should get a quote. We're going to give it its own, it's got its own title, and we're just going to give it its own little description. The Dust Eater has the strongest steel frame, just anything. Obviously, I'm going to say again, if you're designing for a client, you would put the intended text that the client wanted you to put from his brief, or from his already existing website, or from a PDF file with all the information that he sends you on email, or, you know, so on and so forth. Going to manually align it again because of the font padding. We're going to call it padding. And if anybody doesn't know what padding is, it's a coding term which is used to define the space within an element. Margin, there's margin and there's padding. Margin is space on the outside of an element, and padding is space that you add on the inside of an element. So we're going to copy this information and use it for the other two pointers, 2 and 3, O2 and O3. I'm just thinking of pointers you can put. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but if you had a real client, you would be putting the real client's information here. And we're going to take these two down, look at typing them down, just to indicate that we're looking at the first item, the first pointer, which indicates that there's a fourth pointer, which I should have actually, a little more by putting the fourth pointer or a few hours. I can do a follow-up to this design. If anyone would like a follow-up, there will be a follow-up where we will complete this design page. Equal spacing. It's minor details. Sometimes it's minor details like equal spacing that really make, or not. No, they can't break a design. But if you have loads of elements without equal spacing, then that can break a design. But if you have one element that's not equally spaced, it looks messy. But it can't. I don't think it can break your design actually. Unless, like I said, you had a lot of elements that were just weren't spaced out equally at all. And that line, like we did with the home page, is just a further indicator. And I'm going to use the color picker tool to turn the number of the first pointer red. Going to move that up. And again, equal spacing between the bottom of our first pointer and the bottom of the page. And now I'm going to add some social media icons. You can get these social media icons from anywhere. You can get, if you can't, you can download free icons, but if you need to change the color, then what you can do is you take the PNG into Adobe Illustrator and you can use the image trace. These aren't images, but you can use image trace with icons. And better off plain icons, they just come out perfect, and you don't really need to fiddle too much. You just these are traced. You can use them in Illustrator, and I will either me or I'll have Abdurrahman do a tutorial for you that will show you how to do the image trace on icons, and then furthermore we can show you how to do the image trace on other images and more complex graphs or vectors. Accident. I'm just going to manually bring them all down one by one to 25 px height. Make sure that this padlock is selected, and that will keep everything in proportion as it scales down. I'm going to use the equal spacing tool just to space these out. Take the opacity down so it doesn't become the main center of the home page, and I'll align it by the pointers, in the middle of the pointers, so everything looks nice. I'm just going to push that back to the guideline, the first guideline. Going to put this guideline back on the right side and move the bike up. So I can do slide indicators for the spike. Now this is just something that I wanted to do. I don't know if it would be practical to have two slides, a slide indicator for bike and a slide indicator for the pointers about the bike, but I'm just going to do it for this tutorial. I'm going to take the 4 underneath the first one. I'm going to take the fill out of them and just leave them with outlines. Put the top one, I'll take the outline away and leave the fill just to indicate that we are active on the first slide. And that looks okay. In this last part of the of this tutorial, I'm going to add a little bit of spice to the design now. So I've got the pen tool and I'm drawing out a slanted rectangle from the top to the bottom of the canvas. And this is going to turn out really nice. I hope so, anyway. I'm going to change the fill red and just we're going to even it out a little bit. Now, that's one way you can keep it. I'm just going to Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to give this rectangle now a gradient. An opposite is similar to the gradient of the background, but opposite. So it kind of clashes with the gradient of the background, but now it looks really it's going to look amazing. Watch carefully. Why is there a border? Why is there two? Okay, the reason why there's a border and the reason why there's two is because I copied and pasted it on top of itself and I forgot to delete it. Now, I'm not going to cut this piece out because I just want to show you what it's like designing in real life. It's not always all smooth. Sometimes you mess things up, and the same with coding. Really, a lot of times you mess things up. So I've deleted all of the duplicates, and I've duplicated the rectangle, and I'm gonna align it. Yeah, and this is another way you can keep it. I hope you liked this tutorial. It was I had fun making it, and don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and check out some more of our amazing content. Peace.